Yeah, and I think poetry is a really good sort of medium for this kind of story, because it just kind of it's like a kind of shortcut to your heart. I think poetry, you can read like 6 or 7 lines and it's just, it really hits you. So I think it's a really good way of getting the message across. And some of my poems are quite angry as well, and I think that's important. I've got one called Have You Thought About Adoption, which is, because obviously for all of us really, we get asked that question and the answer is yes, of course I have. So yeah, there's a lot of anger in there. There's a lot of loss and a lot of kind of disenfranchised grief. And I think it's really important to be open about those things, because, there was a time when I wasn't. I mean, nowadays, if people ask me if I've got children, I always say no, unfortunately, I wasn't able to have them, because I feel like if you ask that question, then, you've got to be prepared for that sort of answer. But I couldn't say it, for years and years.
Hello and welcome to the Full Stop Podcast, a childless podcast with Michael Hughes, Berenice Smith and me, Sarah Lawrence. If you're new to this podcast, we're here to delve beneath the surface of the childless identity, to cover what's going on in the wider community and to look at the topics that really affect us. Our goal is to help and support those of you out in the community by sharing the stories and the voices that make up our narrative, so that you too can begin to find yours. We also aim to inform and educate those who aren't members of our community so that they can begin to understand and support those people in their lives who are facing a life without children. In this episode, we're joined by Kathryn Millington, poet, wordsmith, writer. Kate writes poetry about many subjects, but she also crafts poems around childlessness. In this episode, we were lucky enough to hear her read 3 of her powerful poems about the experience of not being able to have the dreamed of family. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode all about the importance of our words.
Welcome to the podcast, Kate Smith. It's lovely to have you with us. Would you like to introduce yourself to our guests and let them know all about you?
Yeah, so hello, I'm Kate Smith. I'm known by many names. So I'm a poet. So on Instagram, I'm called Millie the Poet because my maiden name was Millington. So Millie's a kind of nickname. So I write as Kathryn Millington. And yeah, I'm from Doncaster in sunny South Yorkshire. I also do lots of stuff like wild swimming, and I have 2 giant Norwegian forest cats who look after me and make it so I'm here today.
Wow, Norwegian cats. I'm
Yes.
fascinated by this. So Sarah, I can see.
Yeah, they might make an appearance. You never know. They might come in. Just
Yeah.
So what's so special about the What is so special about Norwegian cats?
They're very, very clever. They're a bit like having dogs. So they know their names and they come when you call them. And they know some words, so they know things like chicken. If you say chicken, it's just the end of the earth, because they both just come in your face. Whenever we open a packet of anything, they're always there, kind of either side of you, like a velociraptor. So yeah, they're really clever cats, and they're just very beautiful. They're long-haired and kind of quite a triangular sort of face. So they're really good looking.
Things we didn't know about. I didn't know that.
Historically, they came over on Viking ships. This is true. They used to be mousers on Viking ships, so that's how they ended up in this country.
There you go. That is really interesting. I didn't know that. We have quite a number of people in our audience who own cats or are owned by a cat. I think that's probably the fair to say, isn't it, really?
Cats,
yeah, that's fine. Up for the cats, given that I have a dog, but I did have a cat once. Thank you for introducing yourself to our audience. That's fantastic. It's been a while since we spoke before, and it's just really lovely to have you here on the Full Stop. And I think I'm right in saying it's the first time that we've had a poet on the podcast that I'm aware of. So welcome. Yes. Oh, someone just put into the chat, "Go Cats." So there you are. I knew. So, talk a little bit about Imprint, if that's okay? Because I think that is possibly what people may well know you for. And it's published by the Fawn Press. And to ask you a little bit around what inspired you to blend poetry and childlessness together. Where did that begin for you?
It was quite a strange thing, really. I went on a writing course, and it was by an organisation called the Arvin Foundation, and they're really amazing kind of residential courses, and it was a poetry and short stories course. And I thought I'd write short stories, and what came out was sort of grief and poetry about childlessness. So it was partly that because I thought I'd write some funny poetry if I was going to write anything, and it was very, very honest and sort of grief filled. And once I started writing it down, I found that it gave it a shape, and it kind of pinned it to the page, I suppose, and it made it more bearable in a way to kind of have it written down into a form. And I started thinking that maybe it would help other people to have poetry about childlessness as well, because at the time I wasn't aware of any poetry publications about it. So I applied for a grant and got it to work with the poet Helen Mort, who's really amazing. She's a poet, but she's a writer. She's everything, really. And she gave me a lot of confidence about my poetry, and so it gave me the confidence to approach a publisher, and yeah, the rest is history, I suppose.
That's fantastic. So would it be okay to ask you your childless story, to talk a bit about that, because I think it comes across in some of the poetry as well. There's a couple of poems that certainly that chimed with me, because I think we share a very similar story. If that's okay, if you're happy to share that. If you're not, then please don't feel that you have to.
No, that's fine, absolutely. So I was I got sort of really, really interested in having children because my sister-in-law had a daughter, and I was quite involved in her sort of upbringing. So I started to really, really want to have children because of that. Like before that, I was a bit ambivalent, to be honest, but I really did. So we started trying when I was in my early 30s and didn't have any luck. So we ended up having several rounds of IVF. And my husband also had fertility issues. So we had ICSI IVF. It was, at the time, it was kind of okay. But afterwards, it was really, really hard when it wasn't successful. I felt just completely floored by it, and I guess the typical things of everywhere I went there were babies, and this was kind of in 2011, 2012. So I remember when it was my 2-week wait, when you have the egg implanted in you and then you're waiting to find out if you're pregnant, that it was just such a difficult time. It was kind of like I was scared to move off the sofa in case I did something, and when I found out I wasn't, I just went to bits. And I worked in an open plan office at the time, and it was predominantly women, so people were always bringing in babies, and I just found it so hard to be around babies. So yeah, it was a really tough time. I mean, it still affects me now, but I'm definitely moved on a lot, I think, in my grief journey. Imprint is about that, so it kind of starts with me in the IVF ward, and it kind of finishes with me in a hotel hot tub, feeling like I'm starting to come to terms with my grief.
Thank you for sharing that. There's a lot there when I've read Imprint that chimes with me, because again, ICSI here, and a bit before you, but that time, and also how isolating, I think, at that time it was. There wasn't as much around, I think, about childlessness and failed IVF in particular. I think at that point it was just like, it works.
Yeah, it's all about rainbow babies, isn't it? And
isn't it?
You only hear about IVF in the context of it working. And
that open plan office chimes them in. I think it will chime an awful lot with other people who are listening, who've been in that position too, where there's just no hiding from it. It's so very, very, very public facing, that grief as well. And I think that one thing I was talking about was a research project during the week is about how things have changed since then. The person I was speaking to went through coming to terms with their childlessness around about 2004, I think they were saying, something like that. And that was roughly about the same time, I think. Kind of think for me, I really can't remember the dates anymore. I've kind of put that past me, but I did used to know every single date, and I've tried to sort of forget them best way I can. But it was adding to that landscape, and I think that's what's so lovely about the work that you do, is you're adding to that too. So much has come up in the past month or so when we've been talking about 7 years of the full stop, is that actually how many more voices there are out there and how many more people are doing things and sharing their stories. And poetry does seem to be an area where there isn't so much around childlessness. So
and I think poetry is a really good sort of medium for this kind of story, because it just kind of cuts, it's like a kind of shortcut to your heart. I think poetry, you can read like 6 or 7 lines and it's just, it really hits you. So I think it's a really good way of getting the message across. And some of my poems are quite angry as well, and I think that's important. I've got one called Have You Thought About Adoption, which is, because obviously for all of us really, we get asked that question and the answer is yes, of course I have. There's a lot of anger in there. There's a lot of loss and a lot of kind of disenfranchised grief. And I think it's really important to be open about those things, because, there was a time when I wasn't. I mean, nowadays, if people ask me if I've got children, I always say no, unfortunately, I wasn't able to have them, because I feel like if you ask that question, then, you've got to be prepared for that sort of answer. But I couldn't say it, for years and years.
Did you find the poetry helped you to come up with that answer? Did that give you I don't know about you, Sarah and Michael, but I find that the full stop helps me give more sorry, haven't got the words. My brain's going a million miles an hour with questions. I didn't necessarily have the confidence, or in fact the language to answer those questions until I'd started doing something within the childless space. Did you find that helped you? Was there an intersection there for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think because when I started writing most of Imprint during lockdown, and I was part of an online poetry community called Scribblers Union, and every term we'd kind of write poetry together, and then at the end of the term we'd perform it. So I started performing things like Have You Thought About Adoption, and then I started doing it in person once lockdown finished. So I was kind of standing up in front of a room of people and being quite challenging, and it was really scary at the time. Like nowadays I'm a lot more comfortable with doing it, and it almost feels like someone else wrote it in a way. But when I first started doing it, it was scary. But I thought, well, if I can stand in front of a room of people and basically have a go at them, then I can say to people, no, I can't have children. I mean, one of my poems talks about my therapist telling me to say sadly not when people ask the question, because it's a way of kind of saying it but also shutting it down. And I found that really helpful initially. So I used to say sadly not to people when they asked me, and then they'd kind of look really uncomfortable and change the subject, which was enough for me. But now, I do invite people to sort of say things if they really want to, and I can deal with it.
Would it be all right to ask you to read that poem out? Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Or read any poem out that you'd like from Imprint. I think it would just be lovely to hear you to share your poetry in your words.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this one is called For the Others on Mother's Day. You ask me if, then you ask me why. Why I didn't have, why I wouldn't have, why I couldn't have. You ask as though there's an answer, a distinction, a hierarchy of grief to arrange your face for. Let me show you. The airlocked lunchbox I hid my syringes in, the brightly lit toilets I injected in between the meeting and the night out, between the next course and the last bus, between everyone else and the two of us. Let me show you the needle marks between my umbilical wound and my always empty womb. Let me tell you about summer 2012, the 2-week wait I spent at home watching those technical goddesses running and jumping and swimming, those women. Oh, how they made their bodies fly when I couldn't keep a cell in mine. Sometimes I think I didn't try. My counsellor said, the best way to answer is sadly not. Not sadly, sadly not. Sadly, the knot untied didn't meet the right girl or right guy. It is not a choice to have a terrible upbringing or to be too scared of repetition or to fear the halt of the pulse inside you or to be too afraid of the one beside you or to be too poor to continue to try to. Let me show you how we drowned our reasons into one. We are no body of water. We are groundwater. We pool, form rock-bound aquifer. We seep through convenient cracks in the tarmac. Your face. Do you think you've got it right? Let me take you to the Mac makeover booth. Try the number 1, the Audrey, the averted eye, resilient lip, an angle to hold your head at. Or the number 2, the Princess Di with black coal around your eyes so that everyone can see you cry. What's wrong? Don't want to be categorised. So come, drown in us, if you like.
Thank you so very much. That's fantastic. It's really moving to hear you read that out. It's lovely to read it on the page, but it's lovely to hear your voice as well. It's really, really powerful.
Wow, that was something I'm really interested to know. That was a highly emotive poem. What was it like the first time you actually stood up and said and recited that?
It was very hard, definitely. I mean, there's a line in it. Sometimes I think I didn't try, which is still quite hard to say. Because there is this little bit of me that thinks, oh, if I'd just had another round, you know, if I'd done something differently. So it was very hard to do it, definitely. I think my voice shook quite a lot. But the audience were lovely. I mean, I've had nothing but nice receptions, you know, even to poems like that are quite sort of angry. So the audience was kind of holding me, sort of, so it made it okay. But it was hard, definitely. But the more you do it, you know, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
People out there are thinking of it. And you can do it online first and then kind of progress to doing it in person, which is what I did. And that helped me to kind of practice a bit and build up the courage.
Yeah.
Oh, kudos to you.
I was going to say that it takes incredible courage to do that. I was wondering, what's it like to write about your personal experience like this? What's your process? Does it come out fully formed, or are you having to rejig it to make it not just okay for you to say it, but also, I guess, for people receiving it? I wonder what that looks like.
Yeah, that one came out quite fully formed. I did a workshop about protest poetry, and I wrote it while I was on that workshop. So it kind of, and it was on Mother's Day when I wrote it as well. So it was kind of like, I was involved with Gateway Women at the time, and I was involved in some of the online chat and stuff, and it kind of got me sort of thinking. I mean, I tend to find that images come to me when I'm walking. Like if I just go out for a wander and I'm in nature and I just look around me, I kind of get things in my head, and I always write them on my phone. And that would be a key tip to anyone who's thinking about writing in any way at all. Write it down, because I always think, oh yeah, I'll remember that, and then I get home completely forgotten. So things just kind of pop into my head. But I think being part of workshops and being part of an online community of some sort really helps you to write, because it kind of holds you to account. So you sort of, you get into that poetic way of thinking. So that's really useful. But some of it depends on the poem. Some of the poems in here, there's one in particular that went through about 10 different versions. And there were lines in the first version that I just took out like 2 lines from it and then wrote another poem with those 2 lines and that kind of thing. So they don't all come out kind of fully formed. It does take time.
If the topics in this episode chime with you, you can get in touch with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn and Blue Sky. And we love your feedback. Childless Not by Choice listeners can carry on the conversation with us in our safe place at the Full Stop online community. For more details on how to join and to claim a free month trial on us, please visit www.thefullstoppod.com. We'd like to give a huge thank you to the current members of our awesome online community, because it's down to them that we can keep the lights on for the podcast, and look forward to giving back to the childless community as we grow. We've had a lovely message in our chat that says that there's a couple actually here, that I met Kate a couple of years ago at the Childless after party in London. And the person wants to say, Kate, you were amazing, and I was in awe of how you stood up and read your poetry to us.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
And somebody else has said that it was very emotional to hear that read out. It makes me want to write about my experience. I enjoy writing, but struggle to start at the moment. Thank you, Kate, for sharing your poem with us. And you've touched a little bit, I think, on that in what about workshops and things like that. And I think just for that person who wants to start writing, where's the best place to start? I mean, where would someone who's not written poetry before start writing poetry? How's the best way to do that?
I think workshops is a really good place to start. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of organisations out there and individuals that do really good workshops. There's a lady called Laurie Bolger who does like a monthly workshop where you can kind of sit around in your pajamas and just sort of, and she gives you like lots of prompts. So it's quite structured. So that really helps me. There's another lady called Marjorie Lopfee who does a really good workshop as well, where she gives you a word and you just kind of free write like whatever comes into mind for that word. And then you kind of read a poem together and then you kind of put those words into a poem. So I think workshops is the best place to start. I mean, if being in public, online or in person doesn't attract you, there's books like How to Grow Your Own Poem by Kate Clancy, and that's like a series of workshops that are written down. So if you don't feel brave enough to kind of do one in person, then you can do it in your own home as well. And I really like the Ode Less Travelled by Stephen Fry, because a lot of people are quite scared of poetry, and he sort of takes like poetic forms and breaks them down and makes them understandable, and he gives you exercises to do as well. So those are kind of good places to start. I mean, I would look around in your local area and see what there is, because in Sheffield there's something called the Writers' Workshop, and they do workshops in person and then also online as well. So there's probably something, near where you live or something online that you can get involved with. And I think just sort of immersing yourself in poetry helps as well. You know, there's a lot of really great poets that you can follow on Instagram. You know, there's people like Holly McNish and Laurie Bolger's on there as well. Helen Mort. There's a lady called Wendy Pratt, who's a really great childless poet. She does some really brilliant stuff on Substack, and she holds writing workshops as well. So there's loads out there.
Oh, it's fantastic to know some recommendations as well, because I think there's a lot of vulnerability, I think, going into spaces maybe where other people might not be childless.
Yeah.
And having to sort of write things down. My own experiences was with the Open University when I did a creative writing thing, and that was poetry. And I won't say that my poetry is brilliant, but it was just actually quite cathartic to be angry, do angry words.
Yeah, definitely.
And let some of that out.
When I first wrote the poem I've just read, I said it was about someone else. I said it was about a friend, you know, when I first wrote it, because I didn't want to answer questions about it, and I didn't want. And when I first wrote it, it wasn't for anybody else; it was for me, and I didn't really feel like I cared whether anybody ever heard it again. It was just that I wanted to write it, you know. So I think you can't, you know, you can't expect to sort of start writing and everything that you write be something that you're proud of. I mean, there's things like The Artist's Way. That's a really good book about just finding the creativity within yourself. So, you know, if you're listening to this and you think poetry is not for you, then, you know, if you do something like The Artist's Way, it's things like taking yourself on dates to museums and galleries and just sort of exposing yourself to art and seeing what kind of clicks for you. So that's a really good book as well, and it has something called morning pages in it, which is where you write every morning, and you just write like automatically, like whatever comes into your head. It's not, you know, it's almost like journaling, I suppose. I mean, journaling's a really good way to start writing as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's really useful advice. So one thing I wanted to circle back to what you said there was around the poem being for you. What did it feel like publishing Imprint? I mean, what was that experience like? Because it's, you know, just to our listeners who are listening, you can go to the Thorn Press website and you can buy it as a printed book and as a digital download as well. What did that feel like for you?
It sort of felt really exciting, I think. By the time I came to publish it, the poems had sort of sat with me for quite a long time, and I'd got used to performing most of them. There's one that I don't tend to perform very often, but I got used to the harder ones. It was mostly just excitement and nervous as well, because I thought, what if no one buys it? You know? My publishers will just be like, whoops, shouldn't have done that. But yeah, it was mostly, I didn't really fear any sort of negativity about it, because I felt as though I was releasing it into a sort of protected place, really, that, you know, it would be childless people predominantly that were reading it. So I didn't think that there'd be any sort of backlash or anything like that. And like I said earlier, I've never experienced anybody being horrible. I've had people walk out sometimes, but I tend to sort of say, when I first start reading, what the poems are about, you know, so if people are going through tough times related to it, that they can take themselves away. So, yeah.
Berenice, you pinched my question. I was going to ask the same thing, because I'm intrigued, but you've answered it, Kate. I was intrigued to know that, so you've written poetry, you've performed it online, you've performed it in your groups, but then you write a book and you put it out into the big wide world, you know. So I was just really intrigued to think about how that felt, but also, you know, the fact that it's something so personal and so emotive. But anyway, you answered the question, so that's cool.
You can have another one if you like. You're allowed to ask more, Michael. It's fine.
Okay, well, What are you doing at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm doing two things. So one of the things is I'm trying to write a second pamphlet, and this time there is a poem about childlessness in there, but it's more about my family and growing up and sort of being a woman more generally, I suppose. And I've written quite a lot of poetry about my dad, because my dad died like 10 years ago, and we were incredibly close, and he was kind of where I got my love of poetry from when I was a kid. He used to sort of bring me up with like Iron Man by Ted Hughes and various other sort of poets. So so I'm writing that, and then the other thing three things I guess. I'm hoping to do a workshop for childless people during World Childless Week, like a writing workshop. So I'm planning that at the moment with the Sheffield Writers Workshop. And then the last thing I'm doing is I'm hoping to make a bid for some funding to do a one-woman show of imprint. So I'd really like to read it in its entirety, and I'd like to sort of intersperse it with some singing, because I can sing a bit. So I'd like to sing some songs that kind of relate to it as well. But this is like presuming that the Arts Council wants to give me any money, because I know other people have been lucky in the past. So yeah, at the moment I'm just sort of trying to put the bid together and thinking, well, what would this actually look like? You know, but it's exciting.
I love that.
That's so courageous.
I just love it. I just think it's brilliant. There's a bit in the afterword when you say about like changing the world, and it feels like that's kind of building on that. The imprint was changing the world in its words and providing, I think, so much for lots of people. But I also kind of feel that what you're doing, your next steps, is also doing more changing the world as well. Yeah. Does it feel like it's all being a legacy for you?
I think it is. I mean, I've had people say to me that like my poetry's made a real difference to them, and a lady once told me that she gave my book to her mum and just said, "Can you just read that? You know, because that's how I feel." And for me, that was enough, really. I just thought, well, that's the point of it. So that was really special. But yeah, I do want to get the message out there to more people, and particularly people who do have children, you know, so they can understand kind of our experiences and understand things like, you know, when people say, as a mother, I'm really upset at this child dying or whatever, and, you know, you just feel like, well, it's really not just the preserve of parents to feel emotional things. And I'd like to kind of, just get the message about how it feels out, and for that to be my legacy. That would be really special if I could, you know, change people's views in some way and be a comfort to people.
Yeah, I think it's like a stealth move, isn't it? It's kind of what we've kind of done over the years is just kind of like people stumble upon, because podcasts like poetry, everyone can listen to them. It's not exclusive to childless people, and somehow you can kind of get people in, and then they can learn a little bit more. It's kind of, I don't know, I call it stealth moves. I'm not sure what the other words they would be, but that kind of thing, where people kind of learn a little bit along the way, although they didn't intend perhaps to do that in the first place. So I think that's really good.
I do a lot of events that are not about childlessness. Like I performed at the Morecambe Poetry Festival, and it was after a poet called John Hegley, and he does quite a lot of kind of fun stuff for kids and people. They'd said, like, bring your kids and stuff, and when I saw the bill I just thought, oh God, you know, really, am I following him? But you know, you just have to get on with it, and if it lands, it lands. And you know, I felt like I did sell some books, so it felt like it did land. But yeah, it is definitely a stealth tactic, I think, just getting out there and being, you know, loud and proud about it.
Yeah, own your space. You've earned it, sure. Yeah. Someone said in the comments that it all sounds amazing, and I hope it can happen for you and for us. And I think that's it. It's speaking on behalf of lots of people, which kind of segues nicely into asking, could we have another reading of a poem, please?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I'll read one called "This is Disenfranchised Grief."
Good. That's a good one. Yeah.
I was thank you. I was fortunate enough to meet Benjamin Zephaniah a few times in my life, who was a great activist for childless men and childless people, if people don't know, and a fantastic poet and writer. And Benjamin really liked this poem, which is enough for me to just never write another thing again, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
But it's about disenfranchised grief, which is a phrase from Ken Doker. It's not my phrase, but I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it as a concept. And I wrote this on another's Mother's Day. And I wrote it with Fiona Hazel, Louise Watson and Sarah Markham's stories are contained within it, as well as my own. So this is Disenfranchised Grief. You've heard of grief. Imagine you can't say, I miss my mum, my dad, my gran, or similar, every day, because no one openly feels like that and they push you away. This is disenfranchised grief. Imagine chatting cosy with a brand new tribe of women, stories of birth, that tide of love, the joy that's worth the ruin. One of them hides her scars and prays to free her inner screaming. This is disenfranchised grief. Imagine being lost inside an endless wood, tall trees like grown-up children, the path is motherhood, but the saplings are not yours, so you stumble through the mud. This is disenfranchised grief. You're the slug at your family's salt-flinging party. You're the viewpoint dismissed by the ex-Arati. You're the nail-tattooed palm at the pregnancy announcement. Your movement in the symphony of womanhood is dissonant. You're the mad woman in the attic, the girl on the train, career woman, black widow. You don't have a name. You're pitiful like Cat Lady or scorned like poor Jen. You're every witch that ever died for living just like men. You're the invisibility and yet also the cloak. You're the choking constriction, the lump in the throat. You're lying in the road, but the traffic hasn't stopped. You're falling down a chasm with no limit to the drop. This is disenfranchised grief. Imagine that wherever you go, it is the blackest night, and even when it's time to sleep, there's no chance of respite. The escape hatch is rusted shut. You're weighed down by this fight. This is disenfranchised grief. Imagine that your body is a cast you drag around. Inside is dust-drowned space, a fly tip, a dumping ground. You wish someone would come and burn this debris down. This is disenfranchised grief. Imagine that it's spring, everybody's favourite season. Everywhere spills life from the sky, the ground protean. You cry when you see lambs and you cannot say the reason. This is disenfranchised grief. It's the stinging, it's the stalling, it's those natural instincts calling, the paralysis, the falling. It's the bruises that don't fade, it's the choices you can't make, it's the tearing, blistering ache, it's the bones that won't heal, it's the feelings you can't feel, it's the toys that you can't buy or the clothes that make you cry, it's the names that you can't say, it's the future that lurks unmade. This is disenfranchised grief.
Oh, thank you. Kate,
thank you very much.
You've talked a lot about how you hope that imprint changes people. How has it changed you?
I think it's made me take myself seriously as a poet. Because I used to read a lot of poetry but never write poetry. I met someone at work, weirdly, who was a poet and had a book. And I started thinking, well, if he can do that, why can't I do that? And getting it actually published made me feel legitimate, I suppose. I mean, I would say in direct contradiction to that, you know, if you write poetry, you are a poet as far as I'm concerned. And anybody out there thinking they're not a poet, you know, you are if you write poetry, in the same way that, you know, you're a potter if you pot. But having it published and performing it in front of people, it's definitely given me a lot more confidence about it. And I think it's given me a release from the grief. It's if I am feeling sad and it's on a day that I have to perform, then I put it into the performance and it kind of makes it more contained.
No, thank you. I'm interested to know, are you still angry?
Yeah. What I said about the as a mother thing, that, that really annoys me. Or as a father, or hardworking families, all those kinds of phrases just really irritate me, and I think they're exclusionists. And so I won't rule out writing some more angry poems in the future, because
we're here for the angry poems. We're totally here for that too. Yeah.
I do enjoy them. I do still get angry, particularly when I see other people being kind of shut down and marginalised, and things like Reform saying that they would tax women who don't have children and that kind of stuff. That really gets my goat.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of good feedback after that reading, Kate.
Oh.
Lots of wows. I feel so much emotion and identify greatly with this. And absolutely, all these phrases make me angry too.
I think that's it. It's I think it's like a unity, isn't it? It's poetry, but actually within that, I think there's so many wonderful phrases, and listening to you reading and just going, oh yeah, that, I got that. Yeah, that chimes with me as well. I understand some of those words, even if they're, I wouldn't necessarily write them in poetry. There's an awful lot there that lands really very much so. Like you say, as a mother, as a father, they are incredibly exclusionary. And I think when you said about pottery, I'm sure that somewhere, there must be someone out there. I just want to ask this question. It's a random segue, but there's nothing much to do with poetry. But is there anyone out there who's doing pottery who would do angry kind of pottery mugs that just, I don't know. I was just thinking childless, but angry pottery. There must be someone. I know there is someone doing some rude word pottery, but it's not specifically around that. But I think there needs to be a line in that. I'm just putting it out there to anyone who's a potter. Yeah. I'm not a potter.
There's a company called Sparks that do childless cat lady t-shirts. So they're worth looking out for. Good old Donald Trump, yes.
Yeah.
I love Taylor Swift saying she was a childless cat lady. That was awesome.
That was good. That was quite empowering, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
And there's the one, what's the one, Sarah, that we've talked about? Is it the effing birds? It's not poetry, but it is quite good. Effing birds. It's based in America, and it's lots of squares with birds on. And some of them are quite appropriate. You could kind of just, I don't know, leave the cards around. Yeah, and mugs. There's quite a few mugs, actually, that I've wanted to say. Over the years, there's pencils and mugs that I've wanted to just package up in a parcel and send to Sarah, to be fair. If I did, it would be a constant stream of sweary, angry posts at you, which might make you wonder kind of what sort of friend I am. Anyway.
I guess that's what I like about this poetry, is I can hear your anger, Kate. It's seething rage, isn't it? But instead of it being like a blunderbuss, it's like a scalpel, isn't it? It's so powerful in what you're saying, but without, I don't know. I think if you were to write a story about this, say, for example, people are like, oh, no, that's too much. But actually, because it's quite short and succinct, it says what it needs to say, and people go, oh, okay, I can sit with that. So it feels even more powerful if it's in kind of in a poetry, but in a short form. Listen, this is my pain. This is the words I've got for you. It's quite. I think that's why you're getting all these wows, because hearing it in your voice, it kind of adds to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people have said before that poetry is a bit like a stock cube. That you've got all that concentrated stuff, and then you pour some water on it, and you've suddenly got a pint of of feelings. It's a good way of kind of cutting through, I think.
Fantastic, thank you. Could I invite, just to close the podcast, if we could have the reading of Adopt at the end? I feel that would be quite a nice one just to end on. Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's fine.
Unless there's something else you'd like to read out to bring it to a close. And
No,
I'm saying that, but that felt
Yeah.
like a really nice one to end with, I think, for what we're doing today.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so have you thought about adoption? Have you thought about adoption? Your question is like a shotgun suddenly pointed at my throat. It's a strange concept you promote, like when you're gasping for coffee, but then you'll settle for a tea. Have you thought about adoption? Are you saying it's just reselection, like when you said you'd always be a Man United Red, but started following City when they scored more instead? The child we wanted can't be replaced with another, like I can't just replace an adopted child's mother. Have you thought about adoption? Did you think of taking contraception? I know you're trying to help, being dutiful, something to soften the blow. You're beautiful. But when my dad died 10 years ago, did you say I should get another one? No. Have you thought about adoption? Yes, of course, but no was my gut reaction. We wanted to create ourselves in combination, teach them Nick Cave, self-esteem, a proper education, dyspraxia strategies, or that beauty is ginger. Don't tell me that I can replace that need with another woman's baby. Have you thought about adoption? Your question is like a shotgun. Next time it rises up to be asked in your throat, here's my advice for you on behalf of us all. Please just don't.
Thanks for listening. We hope you found our conversation with Kate as engaging as we did. We'd love to hear from you if you found listening to Kate powerful, uplifting, or inspired to write your own words. If you'd like to find out more about our podcast, or you have a great idea for a topic we've not covered, or just want to know a little bit more about, we'd love to hear from you. We want this podcast to have as many voices from across our community as possible. So if something's missing, or you just want a deeper dive on it, let us know. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. You can also become a member of our online community, which is a safe and inclusive space for anyone that's a member of the Childless community. More details are available on our website at www.thefullstoppod.com. You can also sign up to our listeners list at the website, which keeps you up to date on what we're up to. And if you'd like to, you can also donate to our work too. Remember, you're not alone.
I feel like we need a round of applause.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of need to. I need to kind of go on to. Oh, Riverside's doing emojis at me now. Oh, for heaven's sake! I feel like that almost just needs to be like a manifesto as much as a poem. Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad that we've listened to that today. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me and everything. My husband is ginger. I should just point that out. Hence the line about being ginger. So, Nick Cave's a great singer. Self-Esteem's a great singer as well. If people don't know them, check them out.
Yes,
they're really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you and I will get on very well and go to the same gigs, Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I'd be grand for that.
Yeah, no, I'd be up for that.
On the train to Sheffield. I'll beat you there, Michael.